always from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany Humour. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. Mort Walker from King Features said, "Laughter is the brush that sweeps away the cobwebs of the heart." My wife and a few of her relatives went to see Just for Laughs this summer in Montreal. Dana Carvey hosted the evening, and they had a wonderful time. They had quite a few laughs, enjoyed a memorable evening, until they stepped outside the theater to find their vehicle had been towed away. It wasn't funny, to say the least. There is a fine line in humor. We'll explore that in detail this hour with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Van Morrison with a Brown-Eyed Girl, Sade's Smooth Operator, and the Guess Who, featuring Burton Cummings, Laughing. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Bran Farron, President, Disney Imagineering Research and Development Incorporated, and quoted in the New York Times Magazine, said, "Art, storytelling, and humor are wonderful things. In a future when intelligent machines will reason and do our donkey work, human artists will become the most valued and irreplaceable of professionals, unique in an automated world. Painters, sculptors, writers, actors, architects, animators, and even people who can decorate a decent Easter egg will achieve unprecedented fame and fortune." Unquote. In our world, where the economy is still shaky, maybe toxic, where your job is always on the line as companies cut back, a world where people are on edge all the time, we need an escape. During the Great Depression, people flocked to the movies to escape the hardships they had to face. Even though the economy was in the tank, people still found the few cents necessary for admission to a place where they could forget their troubles for a while. During these tough times, people are still looking for the same escape. Claude Roy from Permis de Séjour, published by Gallinard, wrote, "Love is attachment to another self. Humor is a form of self-detachment, a way of looking at one's existence, one's misfortune, or one's discomfort. If you really love, if you really know how to laugh, the result is the same. You forget yourself." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Daniel Powter and Love You Lately. Rod Stewart, Have I Told You Lately? And Lonestar, and I'm Already There. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Vincent Canby, film critic, also in the New York Times some years back, wrote, "The belly laugh has many of the characteristics of a long, purifying sneeze, being in effect a series of small laughs that suddenly interconnect to produce a response larger than the sum of its parts. Belly laughs are primitive. They don't add to one's dignity. One can't hold a teacup and belly laugh. When watching television, the late-night talk shows, and especially the situation comedies, I often feel that belly laughs are being replaced by titters that build to giggles, that build not to the belly laugh, but to applause. Applause, for heaven's sakes. We have become truly alienated when our automatic response to something outrageously comic is to clap our hands. Unquote, but not all have what it takes to be funny. Laurie Lee from I Can't Stay Long, published by Andre Deutsch in London, wrote, and I quote, "Charm is the rarest, least used, and most invincible of powers, which can capture with a single glance. It is close to love in that it moves without force, bearing gifts like the growth of daylight. It snares completely, but is never punitive. It disarms by being itself disarmed, strikes without wounds, wins wars without casualties, though not, of course, without victims. He who would fall in the battle, let him fall to charm, and he will never be humbled or know the taste of defeat. In the armory of man, charm is the enchanted dart, light and subtle as a hummingbird. But it is deceptive in one thing. Like a sense of humor, if you think you've got it, you probably haven't. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Colbie, Caillat, all bubbly, and Bryan McKnight with Crazy Love. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I'm Don Jackson. William Hazlitt wrote, "Man is the only animal that laughs and weeps. For he is the only animal that is struck with the difference between what things are and what they ought to be." And Dennis Miller in The Rants, published by Doubleday, wrote, "Laughter is one of the great beacons in life because we don't refract it by gunning it through our intellectual prism. What makes us laugh is a mystery, an involuntary response." Lovers and Other Strangers. A little humor this hour from iTunes and CHFI.com. Jim Cuddy and Pull Me Through, and Bryan Adams, Inside Out. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Marie Osmond, quoted by Gene Wolfe in Red Book, said, "If you're going to be able to look back on something and laugh about it, you might as well laugh about it now." And Linda Ellerby on her battle with breast cancer, from Primetime Live on ABC some years back, said, and I quote, "We human beings are remarkable. We plant trees, knowing that by the time they're big enough to climb, we'll be too old to climb them. We write constitutions for people who won't be born for 100 years and may not deserve them. And we try to take care of our sick, although we all have a disease we're going to die from, which I think makes us very brave. And in the course of that, we sometimes stand tall and take the time to look at the sun and laugh. I have always felt that laughter in the face of reality is probably the finest sound there is, and will last until the day when the game is called on account of darkness. In this world, a good time to laugh is any time you can. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. And Luther, and of course, Dance with My Father. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. So, if the reason behind laughter is difficult to define, what makes us laugh a mystery, consider this. John Kiesler, on the tightrope nature of humor, published by McKnight Syndicate, wrote, and I quote, "Imagine this scene. A formal, stuffy affair is being held in a swank ballroom. The orchestra puts forth measured music, and people dance slowly, correctly. Suddenly, a man is seen standing on a balcony above, glaring down. A pompous, heavy-set figure who gives off vibrations of disapproval, disdain, and a certain fearsome, if overdone, dignity. The music falters and fades out. The dancers stop. Arrogantly, the man starts to descend the beautiful curving staircase. At the first step, he slips and falls on his derriere. A snicker or two is heard, quickly controlled. He keeps falling, clumpity-clump. More muffled laughter, for he is doing one of the world's greatest pratfalls. Now, somersaulting down, he careens off the wall at the second landing and keeps falling. People roar. He reaches the bottom of the staircase. The crowd is howling with mirth and slides out on the polished floor. He is dead. When you figure out at exactly what step of the stairway it quit being funny, you will know what humor is. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. I hope you will tell all your friends about Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.